here's what I'm calling my final build for the Robo-Copycat. The theme here is how can I make an instant copy of a piece of artwork or writings so I don't need to waste time either finding a copy machine or having to copy what I've done 2 times or more over. So I thought it'd be cool to have a robotic arm setup where one arm can be configured as an input system and the second arm is the output. So this input would be mimicked by an output arm. So the prototype actually worked out quite well, if you were able to see what I did there. And then I optimized this system based on some of the testing that I performed on that prototype. So some of the improvements I made here is, although this is a little bit messy and I probably should have used some better jumper wires, I off-boarded most of the electronics onto this little jumper board and made it more compact so it sits nice and easily on my Mega Arduino. And obviously everything's connected to the inputs as deemed appropriate. I have on this side, on the input side, 2 10K potentiometers at the critical joints. Those 2 10K potentiometers are used as the signal input and interpreted by a matrix in the code to output the correct angles to these 2 servos, which are the 2 joints on the output arm. One massive improvement that I made off of the prototype is I figured when you write, unless you're doing a continuous line, you often take the opportunity to lift your pencil or pen off of the paper so you can make distinct distinctions between your drawing segments. The old version had the output arm consistently in down mode, so you had to make one continuous line like an Etch-a-Sketch. Here, I used a photoresistor embedded in this arm, and that photoresistor output controls this auxiliary servo in the hand operation of the output arm. So what's really cool here is this photoresistor is inserted into a through hole in this arm, and you can see when I raise this up, enough light leaks underneath this arm to activate that servo. So I could have a very natural drawing method here to raise and lower the desired copy. So you can see here as I move this arm, the output arm traces it with the same movements, both in the shoulder joint and the elbow joint. You can see I can move my shoulder joint and my elbow joint. And of course, when I lift it up, you can hear that servo do its action to essentially lift out the pen. So ideally here, what I like is to be able to draw something such as this Mark Rober logo. And ideally the output should be a nice output like this. So I should get 2 copies for the price of 1. So I draw one drawing and I get a nice output like that. So here's the moment of truth. First real test in front of a camera here to see how well we did. So here I'm going to load in a pencil, and over here I'll load in a pen. My setting for the proper pen height is using a binder clip, so not as fancy as some of Mark Rober's designs, but does the trick, particularly for what I'm trying to do here. So I'll try to draw something simple, and hopefully you'll witness how this works here. So if I try to draw a square, let's see how I did. So hopefully you can see my level of disappointment here. Clearly, it leaves much to be desired when I draw regular objects. Those don't come out too well over on the output side. And even if I write something like my name, not even legible on this side. So where does that leave me? Well, I've done a lot of research, and there's a couple issues here. Number one, I took the simplest route because I don't claim to be an electrical engineer or have a massive experience in designing these types of architectures. Complexity number one is the potentiometers have more degrees of freedom or rotational angle freedom compared to these servos. So there's a mismatch between the degrees of output on the potentiometer versus what can be output on these cheap little servos. And I tried messing around with the code to address that, but in this amount of time, I couldn't figure out how to make those work any better. In all of my online searching on forums, it's pretty clear that what I'm trying to do is a common experience here, and the number one culprit is I'm using cheap servos, right? These are $1.25 servos. Inherently, these guys have lots of issues in these applications where you need to be precise. So in an ideal scenario, I shouldn't be using these servos. I should upgrade the servos at the very least. That would give me more precise control over the output. So I think that's the main culprit here. So I would probably want to scrap what I'm doing here, and instead of using these 10K potentiometers, look for something more precise like a rotary encoder system. Probably could do a better job for me. Obviously putting some sort of step motor consideration or higher grade servos would be beneficial as well. I do like how my pen lifter works. That's the part that probably works the best. So I'm quite excited about that, not having to rely upon a mechanical switch, rather this optical sensor, light sensor, worked out pretty well. So although I wanted to turn this into this, in the ideal circumstance, I'm turning this into some scribbles. So I learned a lot. This has been a really interesting process. Hopefully you guys enjoy the Robo-Copycat. I'm definitely a true believer in Arduino. This is my first go at it, and I've already spent a lot more of my money buying some new kits so I can expand upon my experience in Arduino. So long after this class, I'm sure I'm going to be designing some cool stuff. So I've been inspired.